Batra Daf Hafchet Amud Aleph. Last thing we mentioned was that Usha, the people from Usha, compared the 3 years of Hazakah to the 3 gorings of an ox, just like the 3 gorings of an ox transforms the ox from a non-goring tam ox to a goring muad ox. So too, 3 years of working in someone else's property gets into your property. And we mentioned earlier as well that the concept of hazakah means you have to have a claim as well, meaning I can't just say, oh, I squatted in your property, therefore it's mine for 3 years. No, I have to say, I bought it from you 3 years ago and I lost the document, and the proof that it's mine is because I was in your property for 3 years and you didn't say anything. That's a good hazakah. Okay, now the Gemara says, 1 second, the problem comparing it to an ox is regarding the muad bull that gored 3 times, the only time you have full damages is on the 4th time. Meaning, a tam ox, non-goring ox, pays Hatzi Nezek, half damages, 50%. A Muad ox pays 100% after the 3rd time, the 4th time. So maybe the Gemara says, maybe you need full 3 years, and only in the 4th year, after the 4th year, you get it, just like the 4th time by the ox, you get it. Where it says you can't compare that. That's different, because the ox, you're already considered a muad ox after the 3rd time. It's true that the 4th time you gore, you'll be chayav 100%, but it's already considered a muad ox after the 3rd time. Additionally, they didn't gore again on the 4th time, and you're not chayav anything. Therefore, also over here, regarding the ox, the second that regarding the property, once you use it for 3 years, considered yours. Right? Okay, if you're going to compare hazakah from muad, why do you need the claim to make it considered part of your property? How come the Mishnah says why do you need a hazakah to make why do you need a claim in order to make it with the hazakah? Meaning, if the Gemara says it compared to like an ox, the ox 3 times is three and done. So too by the case of the land, I don't need to claim that I bought it. I should just live there for 3 years and own it, just like the transformation of an ox happens, whether or not you like it. Why don't I need to claim that I bought it? Hazakah shall work automatically. Gemara says, the reason why is because the reason is because maybe the concept of hazakah means is support the claim that I made. The claim is I bought it from you. That's why I'm in it. What supports my claim? The fact that I've been in it for 3 years. But therefore, if the guy doesn't claim it, I don't know. We shouldn't claim for him. The guy could have squatted there for 5 years, but if he doesn't claim he bought it, we're not going to say it for him. Next question. We know that the guy is able to protest elsewhere. So if the guy hears, oh, the Reuven's in my property for 2 years, I didn't sell it to him. I'm hereby protesting, he tells somebody. The question is, why is that a good protest? So too, we see that the same way you by a bull you need to be in the court in order to convict the animal and the owner. So to over here, you need the protest to be in front of the owner as well. Where it says, over there, the reason why you need the muad bull owner to be in the court is because the pasuk specifically says it. Over here, however, regarding hazakah, as long as you protest in front of somebody, the word will travel from his friend to your friend, until the guy who's on the land hears it. That's why protests work, even not in front of the guy. Okay, what Meir holds. In the case of a bull that gored over a few days, like Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, one each. And he holds that even if he gored 3 times in 3 separate events on the same day, it's still mu'ad. Maybe over here also regarding the hazakah, you don't need 3 separate years. Maybe if you harvest 3 separate crops in one day, like the kigontena, like a fig crop, you harvest 3 separate times in a day. Let the hazakah, maybe it should be a good hazakah. You don't need 3 years. The Gemara says, no, you have to compare the hazakah like the ox. Just like the time of the first goring, he doesn't have the other gorings happening. The concept of the harvesting of the hazakah is, I'm harvesting this crop now. Next year, I'm going to harvest the next crop. And the following year, I'm going to harvest the crop after that. Therefore, harvesting the same crop, the figs, well, yes, I harvested some in the morning, some afternoons, some at night, but the same crops are there already. The figs are there. just like the oxen, it can't be all at the same time. So too, the figs can't all be at the same time. The Gemara says, okay, let's say you ate three different crops in 3 different days. Could go on slap. Let's say like the case of caper berries. Lehem hazakah. That should be a good hazakah because the caper berries grow very quickly, even within 3 days. Therefore, the Gemara says the berries, if you harvested them on 3 separate days, each harvesting should count as a separate item, and therefore it should be 3 day hazakah instead of 3 years. Similar to before, we say no, the fruits already existed. We're just waiting for it to ripen. Therefore, you can't do that. Where I said you used the property for three crops in 30 days. Could go on aspasta. Case of aspasta is a fast growing animal feed type of growth. So if I, let's say, harvest it 3 times in 30 days, it should have a hazakah. It should be a good hazakah. I need 3 years. The Gemara said hachidami. The kadiyah achla is if you're just harvesting a little bit at a time, when it grows a little bit, you harvest it. The kadiyah achla hatam mishtamet hu dekam shliv dachil. You're just using the same thing. That's not harvesting 3 times. The Gemara says, okay, if that's the case. Let's say you harvested it 3 times in 3 months, because the pasta grows once every 30 days. So if you harvested it once every 30 days, that's 3 months. You can hazakah. Kagonas pasta lev hazakah. Hazakah should be 90 days, not 3 years. Gemara says, man holeche usha. Who holds like usha? Rabbi Ishmael. Rabbi Ishmael hachinami. Rabbi Ishmael holds that a hazakah can be technically less than 3 years. Rabbi Ishmael, the time Mishnah says, Rabbi Ishmael says, when does it work? Bis the only time you need 3 years by a grain in the field. But regarding trees, once you harvest the grapes, you pick the olives, you get the figs. That's considered 3 years, meaning it does not need to be necessarily 3 years. 3 years is just the general concept of harvesting three things. But if you're able to harvest three things, even under 3 years, like 3 months of aspasta, it will harm. Okay, now the question is, Rabban Mai, where do Chachamim, right, so Rabbi Shmuel learned from oxen. Where does Chachamim know 3 years? The Gemara said, Amar Yosef Krakti, the Pasuk says, Sadot b'kesed viknu b'katov b'sefer haton. Shar Navi Omed be'eser u'mazil al-achat Esrei. In the king Hezekiah's 10th year, Yirmiyahu Navi told them, when you're buying fields now, write a document, because in 2 years from now, we're going to be exiled. And therefore, write a document now, because you're going to need it in 3 years from now if we return after 2 years. The Gemara says, and therefore we see 1, 2, 3. The Gemara says, okay, maybe that's not just a concept of 3 years chazakah. Maybe he's just giving them advice. If you're buying fields, just write something up. The Gemara says, no, and I can even prove to you that it's just advice and not legal halacha regarding chazakah. Because the pasuk also says, "Benu batim v'shivul v'netu ganot v'yavu brian." Build houses and settle in gardens, etc. Might come out to tell them. Therefore, you must be telling them that be prepared for exile. Regarding the document, it's not a proof. It could just be advice. And I can even prove to you just advice. It also says that you should put the documents into earthenware vessels so that it lasts longer. He's just giving them basic, he's just giving them practical advice. He's saying, listen, write documents, because when you're going to exile, and also put the documents into good earthenware vessels so it doesn't get ruined. He's just giving them advice. Okay, Elmer Abbas says different source. Shata kamaita mahil inish. The first year that someone on someone else's property, he'll forgive him. Tatin mahil, he'll forgive him for 2 years. Fat lo mahil, don't forgive him for 3 years. Therefore, if the guy let him stay there for 3 years, it must be he doesn't belong to him anymore. Gemara says that's the case. That's the case. Let's say the guy protested after 2 years, and he's returning the land. Why does it let it go back without the fruits? He says, hey, William the property, get out. Been there for 2 years. He goes, okay, no problem. Technically, if he should not have to pay him back, because we just said he's mochelet. Nachman says, Rahman, however, says that if he protests and throws him off the land, you have to pay back the land and the fruits that he used. For a different reason. The first year person doesn't protest. It's like 2 years doesn't protest. But the third year does protest. And that's why if he does protest, he returns the land and the fruits. That's the case. In the people of Bari Lashif family, they protest even on those who walk on their border. They're very, very antagonistic. People touch their border. Hey, get off my lawn. So that's the case. If they are the type of people that would protest, if you walk near their border, then if you're on their land, it should be an immediate chazakah without a protest. If you say that maybe it's true that it goes each person according to their values and the way they act, that's the case, then you gave a halakha that is up to your valuation. We don't like doing that. We don't like halachot that can depend on person to person. We like across the board. So Mar says, okay, I'm not Rava, shata kamaita mezer inish bishtare, tarte utlat mizahir. The first 3 years after a person buys something, he's careful with the document. After 3 years, he might lose it. Therefore, if someone protests in the first 3 years, what do you do with my property? He can give him the document. I have it. After 3 years, we're worried the guy lost it, and therefore, if someone protests, you say, "I've been here for 3 years. It's my land." Right, if that's the case. If that's the case, how come a protest not in front of this guy shouldn't work? Because maybe the guy could say, if you protested in front of me, I would have kept my document longer for 3 years. The Gemara says, no, that's not a good proof, because we said earlier, a protest not in front of him is good enough, because the guy will end up hearing about it through the word of mouth. When you said 3 years, that means 3 consecutive years. 1, 2, 3. The Mishnah said clearly. Our Mishnah already said the Chazakah is 3 years in a row. Maybe you thought day to day means 3 full years. But those 3 years can be year 1, year 3, year 5. Come on, there for the Mishnah teacher. When teaches us the 3 years have to be what year 1, 2, 3, and not spread out. One would agree. In a place where they do leave the field fallow every other year, meaning let's say they grow year 1, they leave it empty fallow year 2, they grow year 3, fallow year 4, and they grow year 5. So you might think, so that Hidush is, even in that case, it's a good hazakah. If he does year 1, 3, 5, it's a good hazakah, and you can't complain that he didn't do it consecutively. Pshita was the Hidush. That's the way it is. Whereas no, lo tzricha. I needed to explain it to you this way, because the ikad de movar ve'ikad lo movar. It come at a place where some farmers do the alternating years 1, 3, 5, and some farmers just do regular 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's say this guy who was in this property, he left it fallow every other year. Maybe you might think the owner could tell the occupant, if it's really yours and you bought it from me, you should have planted it immediately 1, 2, 3 to make sure that you had a chazakah in 3 consecutive years. The guy can tell him, no, I wanted to keep it fallow and I had a right to keep it fallow the other area of the year. I can't hire a guard to watch this single field when the rest of the land is not being planted, and therefore I have no reason to plant it, and therefore it's a good hazakah even if he kept it empty. Being a different answer. No, I wanted to keep it empty every other year. I should not be forced to plant every year straight, because because when I leave it fallow, the field produces more the next year, and therefore in this case the hidush is, even though we say that you have to have consecutive years in a row, however, if the guy decided to keep it fallow and keep it empty every other year, it's still a good hazakah.